Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to our Masters of Engineering Leadership, Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering Program seminar. We're here today with Jon Mikkelsen, the director of the program, as well as one of our current students, Abdul Abadu. This is a live session. We're here to answer all of your questions. So what I would like anybody who's listening in to do is, if you do have a question, please jump onto the comments section of the video, type in your question, and we will attempt to get to it as soon as possible. If for some reason we aren't able to get to your question, we will be responding to all queries post the end of this event. So make sure you tune back into the Facebook Live session. I would like to welcome all our visitors from around the world. We know we have visitors from Australia, Belgium, the Netherlands, and also domestically here in Canada. But what I'd like to do to start today's session is just hand over to Jon Mikkelsen, just to give us a bit of an overview of the course and what's involved in the Masters of Engineering Leadership, Naval Architecture, Marine Engineering.
Great, thank you. Welcome everyone. Certainly Naval Architecture is a very broad area, of course. We relate everything to transportation of goods and services across oceans. So what goes into a design of a ship? Well, very often you need to understand, first of all, who your client is. What is the goods that you need to transport? Where's the operation is going to be on the ocean, on freshwater lakes, whatever those kinds of elements. Then as someone enrolled in our program, we want to provide you all the fundamental science and engineering into what makes a vessel float, how we propel it through the water, how we ensure that it can withstand the storms and all the safety aspects of that, how we look at building a ship as well, produce it in our shipyard. Our program is very much industry focused. So our program has been established in response to a shipbuilding program that we have in Canada. We have 2 shipyards involved in the construction of naval ships for our Navy, and a lot of Coast Guard and scientific research vessels as well, and that program is happening here in Vancouver. So our program is, we are providing an education for the leaders that will go into that industry, not only on the shipbuilding side of it, but also on the design and also on the operation of ships as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that overview. And I'll pass to you now, Abdul. And can you just tell us a little bit about how you came to be involved in the MEL program?
Yeah, thanks for having me actually. So it's a long journey actually. When I finished my high school, I wanted to work on board ships. I loved ships. I lived close to a port, so I see ships going past me, and then I was fascinated by ships, and I was like, okay, I want to work on ships one day. And I asked my uncle, how do I get to work on board a ship? So I had to take a degree in marine engineering, and that was a 4-year program. And then I started working on board ships. Along the line, I just started having this feeling like I want to be involved in the business part of it. I want to build ships. I want to know how the business works. So I kind of had a hunt, like, should I do an MBA or should I just do a master's degree in engineering programs? And then I started making my research, and then I wasn't really sure that I wanted to do a pure master's degree, like a technical master's degree. And then during my search, I stumbled on this program, MEL, and then I felt like this is what I have to do because it had the technical part of it and also the management part of it, which I feel like it's very important in the development of a marine engineer, in the going into the business part of the job, and then try to understand what is involved in owning a ship, what is involved in building a ship, and what is involved in operating a ship.
Yeah. So for you, it really was the perfect cross-section of the MBA and then the Masters of Engineering.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that is it for me.
Yeah, and can you expand for us, Jon, on the leadership aspect of the course?
Sure. So leadership aspect, for a student like Abdul, it's fantastic, who has already experience on board ships. So the actual operation of the engine room and all the systems on board a ship. Taking that technical expertise and now saying, okay, we're going to move that into becoming a leader. That leadership aspects often relate to things like management, strategic planning for perhaps a shipping company, as an example. if Abdul was working in, let's say, in the design of vessels, and we do have students who have similar background from you, working in design offices, taking leadership roles within that, having all that on-board experience means that someone can say, having known what happens literally down in the engine room allows someone to be able to say, I can apply that into design and also into operation aspects of vessels and shipping companies.
Fantastic. And obviously that's one of the key strengths of the program. Are there any other strengths that you'd like to particularly highlight?
I think what I'd like to highlight as well is our program is heavily engaged with industry. So we have people who work in industry as naval architects who teach in their program. We invite a lot of guest speakers to come into our program and provide sort of highlights about all aspects of the naval world, from operation, from regulation, from design. We also do have a internship program as well. So students are placed into industry. Typically, a lot of them go into the shipyards as well. Others will be involved in some of the regulatory aspects of that. And that's one thing that we want to do with that all the way through.
Perfect. So we have our first question coming in from Pavan. If my application is accepted, does UBC provide guidelines to help international students with admission and induction processes? That's something that I can actually field. So we do have an international students guideline. It is available on our website. And what we can do is, following the end of this event, we will go through the comments and we'll actually post the link. So you can click on that link and find out all the relevant information. So hopefully that answers your question, Pavan. I would like to move on to our next question, which comes from Vikram. What challenges do the students face in the Masters of Engineering Leadership NAME program, as they'll be coming from a working background, a professional background, and having that 3 years of experience? What are the challenges coming across? And this is probably the perfect question for you, Abdul. What challenges did you face in transitioning into the program?
Yeah, I mean, it's a positive challenge, if you ask me, because it's something you should be eager to appreciate. From the working background, you used to like rules and regulations, you used to like guidelines on how to carry out your activities, daily activities, I guess. And then you don't actually challenge the status quo. You kind of like, okay, you just have your daily activity, this is how it to be done, and then you just go with it, right? But coming to the classroom background, you try to question these things you've been doing before. Okay, this is how it has been done. Is this the best way to do it? Can I use my experience and kind of try to make better processes of things to be done? So we talk about plan approvals, which is something that we do from my experience when I was working in class. And then coming here, I'm like, okay, this is a better way of doing it. So this is one aspect about it. Secondly, also, most of our projects we do in the classroom, you can relate to them easily. For example, the leadership courses like project management, you're supposed to like design a project plan. And then from your experience, if you've worked, you should be able to like say, okay, I could relate this project plan methodology, which is the agile project plan. So you can say, okay, you want to have like project plan, you want to have your stakeholders, how do you go about your project, and how do you kind of deliver the project on time? So this leadership skills from this program would help you like relate to what you should have done if maybe you didn't do it, and even if you did it, how you should do it better in that regard. Also, I think it's kind of like you having a pencil and making it more sharper, if I should say. So you want to like fine tune all the things you felt like you know them, but why do you do them? How do you do them better?
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. It's not just taking everyone else's word for it. It's really putting your own stamp on things, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, and how did you find as a student the challenge of moving across to Canada, studying and stepping away from work for a period of time?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be challenging because for what it's worth, I mean, the program is very, very intensive. So you kind of like have little or no time to do any work. So you have to like have that sorted out for yourself as a student. But aside that, also, it's something that you should prepare yourself mentally for also, because you come into the program, the first semester is always like a lot of classes, a lot of projects, a lot of assignments, and you're like, if you don't have this mental preparedness for it before you come into the program, it can throw you off. And then you could find yourself like, okay, maybe I made the wrong decisions and start nagging, but you need to like, within yourself, be like confident, this is what I want to do, and then I'm going to do it, and that's it.
Yeah, and I imagine you found that is a common aspect amongst all your students.
Certainly, I could add that to that as well. It is definitely a how should we say, it's an intense program. So you really, my recommendation for students to come into it is be prepared. You're coming back to school. It's an intensive program. I would recommend refresh yourself maybe in some of the fundamental elements of engineering, things like fluid mechanics, things like thermodynamics, a little bit of solid mechanics. Some of those things that you may have, how should I say, may have gotten a little rusty over time. And it's always a good idea to just kind of, like I said, sharpen your pencil, kind of go back, refresh yourself, and be ready, because it is an intense program within very short period of time. You have a lot of assignments, a lot of projects, a lot of teamwork, and we keep you very busy. So which is good. It's an enjoyable program, and so yeah.
And it is. You talk about how intense the program is, and it is a 1-year intensive program, and that includes a 12-week co-op position. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Can you expand on that co-op program just a little further?
Sure. So the co-op program, like I said, we work closely with our industry partners, and in the naval sector, there are sort of, let's say, 3 very broad categories. We'll start first with the owner and the operators. So these can be shipping companies. These can be ferry companies. One of our graduates is working actually in Florida with one of the cruise ship companies. So imagine you're the owner, you're the operator of a vessel, and then you would need someone with the leadership skills and technical skills to enter into that area. So that's one group of our, let's call it our clients for an industrial sense. We have some locally here in British Columbia and Canada, and then, as I mentioned, internationally. Obviously, shipping is an international business, so shippers are organized and have offices all over the world. Then from that, usually then the next element is going to be what we'll call the design offices. And ship design really has various sort of categories of design. There's the top end is going to be concept design, and a lot of companies are involved with that. What should be some of the overall aspects of a vessel? What should be the size of the vessel? What should be sort of accommodation space, cargo spaces, and those kinds of things? So those are involved in the concept design. Then as that moves further down, then that goes into a more detailed engineering design. Once again, there are a number of different companies involved with that, putting together all the detailed designs for bids that would go out to shipyards and say, we want to build this naval vessel, we want to build this ferry, we want to build a cruise ship, as an example. Then the shipyards would be bidding on that, and then the next part of the design would be the design for production. So the actual designs, the working drawings that would be done within the fabricators for cutting steel, for welding steel together, all of those parts of that. Then even added to that, of course, is going to be the actual production as well within a shipyard, the management of trades, the management of production engineers within that. So it's a very complex element. Then added, even I'll add one more onto that, is all the supply chain of elements coming into that. So we have engines as an example for that. So we have students that work for some of the big diesel manufacturers in the world that supply engines for ships. You can almost imagine everything else that goes into a ship: pumps, valves. Heck, if you're in a cruise ship, someone's got to supply carpeting. That has a very specific marine application. It's not exactly the same thing as something you might put in your house. Going to have different kind of fire ratings and all these kinds of elements. So there's such a massive supply chain that support that. And again, we have students that are involved in that sector of the business as well.
So I imagine the breadth of experience you get from doing that program would just be phenomenal.
Yeah. So it is intense. Like I said, it's intense.
Yeah. And I hope you've been writing notes there, Abdul. It sounds like quite a lot.
Definitely.
We do have our next question from Sebastian. Can we talk about the entrance requirements for students who have done bachelors from other universities? And while I can talk to part of that, are you able to share your experience in the application process and how you came from your undergraduate degree through to studying here?
Yeah. So when I applied, I think it's still the same thing. The requirement, you have to have like 75% of your CGPA, and that is like from an engineering background, so marine engineering related or mechanical engineering related. And then you have to also have 3 years experience of working, and then this will be reviewed by the board, and then if you're successful, you begin an application. However, you have to also demonstrate in your kind of your essay why you want to do this program, because for me, I think it's very, very attractive program, to say the least, because it's very unique in its nature, leadership and also technical skills, and everybody would like to jump on it. But then it's not something I don't think it's for everybody. I think you have to want to do it. You have to have the desire to do it. And then if you have the right requirement from your background as an engineer and you want to switch over, or you want to have the knowledge of also leadership as well, and then you apply for it, yeah, you should get the admissions.
Yep. So it's a 76% GPA.
75.
Yep. So we've got that one. It is the
3 years work
3 years of work experience.
Yeah.
And I believe you have a degree in engineering. What was your degree in?
Marine engineering.
Marine engineering. And do you accept students from other disciplines within engineering as well?
Certainly, I can speak to that. Yes, we do. So it's a question, I think, was from Sebastian. What we do is one part of it is going to be is the GPA, your basic entrance requirements to get into the university, and that's a university rule that's set by our faculty of graduate studies. But of course, your letter about why you want to come into the program is very important. And we review the letters, and we're looking for people who are passionate. They want to come into this industry. They see their skill set can be applied, and this is something that they want to do. And that's very important that you convey that within your letter. If you're just saying, I'm interested to come to UBC and take a program, but if I'm not reading any passion in the letter, I don't think it's going to be the right type of program for you. It is intense. If you don't have the right passion for that, you're going to find yourself struggling very, very quickly. And then also we do ask for references as well. They can be academic references. They can also be work references as well. And typically in those references, again, that person most typically will speak to your passion about why this is the right program for someone like Abdul, because Abdul is seeing opportunities to move forward and also give back to the industry as well, and seafarers who are working on ships as an example.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're getting students from a wide range of different qualifications and backgrounds.
Yep.
Are you able to just expand on the student profile and, what does the average student look like?
Oh, great question. So I can a couple elements. First of all, naval architecture and the marine sector is global. So we have a very a cross-section of students from around the globe. So not just Canada and US, but obviously Asia and Europe. So that's sort of the one part, first of all, very global in nature. We have certainly a very broad set of diverse backgrounds, but we enjoy that. That's a strength of our program. And then in terms of background of students as well. So some of them come from a mariner background, people who have spent time at sea, working on ships. Others will have come from perhaps a different engineering discipline. So we had a student, as an example, who was working in the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning industry for buildings, for land-based system, HVAC for buildings, but was interested in saying, I want to move out of that and move into the marine sector. Applied to the program, got in, learn all of that stuff, and is now working back in that industry, but more on for equipment suppliers for the marine sector.
Very cool. So that is, a very wide range of not only reasons for coming into the program, but backgrounds as well.
Yeah.
We do have our next question from Farid. Could we provide the same information about research activities, funding options, and future opportunities? So I can touch on a couple of those, but I will just start with future job opportunities. So can you give us some insight into where your students have gone once they've completed the program?
Sure. Okay. So, so again, kind of thinking a little bit about the almost like the value stream within the marine sector. So operators. So we have students that work in the operation field. So again, let's look at cruise ships as an example. So one of our students is working in Florida with one of the cruise ship operators. Suppliers for equipment. So that one student I mentioned about supplying equipment for ships related to HVAC is another example of that. We have students involved in the shipyards themselves, both here in Vancouver and also on the east coast of Canada. They're involved in the day-to-day operation of building ships. So again, management of trades, working out particular challenges that come up, and there are challenges that come up every single day, from something related to production, pieces that may or may not fit, issues related to suppliers, equipment not meeting specifications, those kinds of things. Then others will be working in design offices as well. So the companies that are involved in the design of ships, so they're awarded contracts to design the ship, and we have a number of our graduates involved in those companies, both here locally and nationally and internationally.
And Abdul, where were you intending to take this course? Where do you want it to take your career?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. So for me, this is my ambition. I hope to be a ship owner someday. I hope to build ships and, operate my own company and have some couple of vessels. But I think it's important for me to know how ships are built, for me to know how ships are operated. And so from my background, I've worked in a shipping company, I've worked on board ships, and I've also worked with the class society, that is those who regulate the industry. And then I feel like putting this all together and then moving forward, the next step should be like how a ship is being brought to life. And then I can now consolidate my knowledge and then see how I can also start my own shipping company someday.
Yep, fantastic. Yeah. And I'll move on to the next part of your question, Farid, which is some of the funding questions. So we do have students who are looking for scholarships and those kind of financial aids. What we do recommend is reaching out to local industry and government bodies. So we know that a lot of industry are providing scholarships for students to study and get experience in this area. And there's also government bodies who are willing to support students' growth and development as well. So as your first point of call, we do recommend those two avenues. With regards to the research into the program, this is a professional program. Unfortunately, it's not a research-based program. So if you are looking at getting into research, UBC has some fantastic research-based degrees. We do recommend you looking at those if that's the particular avenue you would like your career to go down as well. We do have our next question from Eduardo. What is the main difference between the Masters of Engineering Leadership and the Masters of Engineering? I'm going to guess that you're going to be the perfect person to answer that one.
Sure, of course. Great question. So we do offer two professional programs within the Naval Architecture area. One of them is what we consider to be a pure technical degree. So it's 30 credits of technical courses related to things like ship structures, the hydrodynamics, the ship production, ship design, etc. So there's 30 credits for that. Typical student that would come into that are often very recent graduates. So we have graduates who would, let's say, complete a degree in mechanical engineering, it could be civil engineering, it could be materials engineering, and they're looking at what we consider to be marinizing your degree. So they may graduate in May, and they'll actually show up again in September. And that's to say, okay, I want to be able to work in this area, and you could be coming from a university, locally or nationally or internationally. We've got students from all sorts of backgrounds. That program is literally 100% technical. So it's all related to, again, the science and the engineering and design of ships. Then out of that, for the MEL program is we take about 18 credits of our technical program that we feel is most appropriate, and we move that into our MEL program. So you'll be taking courses with the MEng program. So we have a MEL and MEng technical cohort that's combined together. And then, of course, the leadership courses that are part of the MEL program that are common to everyone, that's the part that you'll be taking within the MEL. Background of students coming into MEL, once again, they have experience already. That could be like Abdul working in the industry, or someone related in a different industry wanting to come in, but they're coming in with typically 3+ years of experience. On the technical side, you can imagine someone coming in literally fresh out of their degree program.
Okay, so the type of student you're typically getting is a little bit more mature.
Correct.
And really looking for that extra leadership development.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's why Abdul's obviously joined into the course. We do have another question from Pavan. Are course materials and textbooks all provided at the beginning of the course? Unfortunately, not, Pavan. They are in addition to the program, so you will need to seek out your textbooks. The good news is we have excellent course directors here who can guide you towards the textbooks that you will need and help you navigate through a lot of the content as well.
I could add one more element on course materials. Being a professional program, sometimes there is a textbook that's required. Often they're going to be from diverse backgrounds. They could be papers online, they can be notes provided to students, and so on. Some of the other textbooks are often going to be reference material as well. So going into the career, we recommend certain numbers of background textbooks to have literally on your shelf as a naval architect, as a practicing engineer. So that's part of your investment in the program.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I have a question for you as well, Abdul. Can you run us through, we've talked about how it's an intensive program. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so for starters, you have lectures from like 8 o'clock till 5 in the evening. That's like a full day lectures, just breaking between like 12 to 1. And then you have projects that you have to like deliverables to come up with like every week in different courses. So for example, we have analytical skills, which you have to come up with deliverables every other week. We also have project management, which we have case studies and also debates we have to come up with every week. And then for the Naval Architecture part of it, which is the pillar courses, we have like CGP assignments. Every 2 weeks you have to deliver an assignment, and these are like assignments that take about maybe 10 to 15 hours to kind of finish it. So it's a lot of work to be done, a lot of reading to do on yourself. And I would like to add also that there's a lot of materials on the library, because it's very good for engineers to be able to access different kind of like ideas, how things are presented, and then kind of like come to decision which is best for you to understand. And then, which for me, that's helped me a lot, because I found that even if you go to classes and then you learn the handouts and publications online, you need to also make your own research yourself, go to the libraries and kind of like understand what is really happening, and then it's going to help you find it easy, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah. And how have you found working with an experienced student body as well? So I imagine when you did your undergrad, everyone was coming in quite young and without the level of experience that you have now. How have you found that?
I think it's better now. However, the stakes are higher, because you know that you're going to be going into a different level of profession, not like an entry level. You're going to be answering to management. You're going to be doing a lot of budgeting in your, perhaps you're going to be kind of like in projects that are time bound, schedule wise, financial wise, and you have to be able to justify why you're taking decisions. So you're more like a short scholar, but you have to have like reasons why you're doing this. And then when the stakes are high, of course, you know that it has to be a lot of justification, right? So you have to be prepared. That is the word. And something I also learned from this course, again, one of our lecturers, is that every time you kind of give a presentation, or every time you kind of put an idea out, there are a lot of people there to challenge you. And then you have to be able to stand your ground and say, these are my reasons, and this is why I'm doing it. And they have to convince people that this is the way to go. And then they will say, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. So that's it for me here.
Yeah, fantastic. And I understand we have another question coming through. Is it advisable for students to live on campus? I actually haven't asked this question before. Are you living on campus?
No, I'm not.
There you go. So that means that I can answer this one. It really does depend on the individual student. So some students do find it easier to live on campus because you are closer to classes, and as Abdul has mentioned, it can be quite intense, so being able to sleep in a little bit longer can be helpful. For other students, they do want to get involved in the local community a little bit more, and Vancouver has a vibrant, active community, so the chance to be away from the university can help you experience all of that as well. Our next question, if a MEL candidate is interested in pursuing PhD after the MEL program, is it possible? Again, I'll field that one, unless you have any input onto that one.
Great question, Pavan. If you are looking at moving into obviously a PhD, so research-based program, you can do it. You'd have to ensure that you've got kind of the right, again, academic background. So if you're moving into, especially into a PhD, you are looking at applying to work in a very sort of specific field. Our professional programs are very broad-based, so we don't necessarily go deep into any particular subject matter. Let's pick one as an example, fluid mechanics. If you want to be a world-leading hydrodynamicist, you would probably be exposed to hydrodynamics, but maybe not to exactly the depth that you're looking for to go into a research-based PhD. Having said that, I just wrote a reference for a student who is going in that direction after completing a degree. This was our technical degree, working for a while in the industry, and then wants to take it to the next step. So I would say that certainly the opportunity is there, but if you're looking at pursuing a PhD, you may want to be looking at some of our research-based tracks once again versus directly into an MEL program.
Perfect. And what is the criteria for getting selected into the reward grant? It's an excellent question. So in previous years, there has been something called the reward grant. We don't know what's happening with that this year, but as discussed a little bit further, where we recommend students do look for information on scholarships is definitely within industry to start with. So that'll be the first place. With regards to the reward grant, there will be updates following over the next few months to see what is happening with those grants. The next question I have is actually for you. There are other programs out there, other naval architecture, marine engineering programs out there. What separates ours from everybody else's?
I would say, first of all, is the degree to which we work with industry. So being a professional program, we work very closely with industry, and again, operators, regulators, designers, and shipyards. That's a big strength of our program. UBC itself, of course, is a very large institution, lots of opportunities to explore other courses, interact with people involved in research in different areas, be it clean energy, be it again hydrodynamics, those kinds of things. So that makes our program unique. I can tell you that in the world of naval architecture, there aren't that many schools that have programs in that area. In fact, if you looked in North America, just and broadly, we're the only one, literally, quote unquote, west of the Mississippi that are involved with that. So there are a couple of schools. There's one in Eastern Canada at Memorial that's involved in naval architecture. There's a couple in the U.S., University of Michigan as an example of that. But I think the strength of our program is how involved we are with industry, including having people come in, teaching within the program who are working directly in the industry.
Yeah, and I imagine the fact that it's a one-year intensive program is quite attractive as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And is that part of the reason why you selected the course in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very, it's obvious because it's not like you want something fast, but you feel like it's based on your plan. As an individual, you want to like get done with school and then continue your life. So the 1 year, it's key in decision making for prospective students. However, also it's not just 1 year of like 2 semesters, it's 1 year of 3 semesters. So you have the first semester and the internship and also the last semester. So it's all year round work. So it's, yeah.
Yep, fantastic. One of the other questions we've got, and I feel like we have touched on this a little bit, but how are you balancing your work-study life? Like you've talked about how intense the program is. How are you managing that?
Okay, for me, I don't work, so I just study and then sleep and eat, I guess. So I mean, during the orientation of this program, when we listened to and Helen, she said like she gave us advice like it's up to you, but then just don't work. But it's up to you if you want to work. And I felt like, okay, this is someone who's kind of like set up this program, and then she's telling me don't work. Do I want to like take this advice or what? And I felt like I didn't really get it initially, but after the first 2-3 weeks, it sunk in. Like, yeah, it's challenging because you have to like finish with these classes, go back home, prepare for the next classes. You have to like a lot of pre-readings to do, have assignments to deliver, and then also you work in groups, so you have to network with your fellow colleagues. So it's also managing your own time also with your colleagues in your groups. So it's not like you just have individual workload on yourself. So you have to delegate things. You have to like, okay, you guys maybe you read this topic and then we can discuss it together in class. So it's a good way of it's a good learning method, I think. Working in groups, having assignments, and then having pre-readings before classes. So it's more like teacher wants to kind of ignite the desire for you to learn, and then you come and justify what you have learned in class. So that's it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and I believe you're working with a reasonably small cohort this year. Is that correct?
Yes, within Naval Architecture. So the MEL cohort's relatively small, but again, the classes are combined with our other MEng cohorts. So typical grade class sizes are in the 18 to 20 range, which is a nice size of a class. People get to know each other very well. Again, a lot of group work, so you do have lots of opportunity to interact with your classmates.
Fantastic. Our next question: after completion of the course, how is the job situation for international students?
Great question. The job prospects for international students is generally speaking quite good. Within North America, there is a projected growth within the marine sector that is going to outpace sort of the more general engineering fields. And part of that is that obviously, if you look at global shipping, it's a very active area. Other areas related to things like naval ships and so on, there's a worldwide, there's a lot of fleets that need to be basically, actually, rebuilt. And so most countries are going through a significant rebuilding program, Canada included. And so I think all that leads well into careers in this area.
Cool. And we do have a number of international students who are also interested in moving to Canada and see the degree as an extra way of building on their career and doing it at the same time. So there are definitely opportunities there with regards to visa and immigrating to Canada. But we do recommend that you reach out to your individual immigration consultants if that is something that you are interested in. We do have another question from Sebastian. Are we able to give some examples of the co-ops that students have been involved in and how much choice the students have in choosing their direction?
Okay, great question. So examples of co-ops for our MEL students. As an example, we've had a couple that are placed into our local shipyard, which is Seaspan. We've had others that have been placed into our operators, BC Ferries, as an example with that. So in terms of what we work with is really going to be what the interests of the student. And the other element for that as well is also the fit within the company then as well. So these are, you go through an interview process, you win the position, if you want to think of it in that sense. In terms of flexibility, we work with our co-op office in terms of placements for interns. They are very helpful in finding the right kind of fit. That can be locally and that can be also internationally as well. I can give you a student. He was not in the MEL program, but was in our technical program. Similar background as Abdul, was a mariner. Very interested in, again, working within the large diesel manufacturers. Was able to secure an internship with one of the big diesel manufacturers. Actually, this was in Denmark, and our co-op office was very helpful in assisting getting that student a position and working out some of the visa requirements to move to Denmark. And he continues to work there today.
Fantastic. He's done very well.
Yeah.
We have another question from Vikram. What are the courses and candidates? Sorry, I'm just making sure that I read this correctly. What must students looking to come into the course do to be prepared? I might come to you, Abdul, on that one. Is there particular studies that you did on top of your degree, or particular programs that you undertook to help you prepare for the course?
Yeah, I think that's very correct. If you go online, you have the prerequisites of the courses which you're going to be studying in the first semester, second semester. So it's more like having a background knowledge of those courses. So for example, the first semester courses, for the pillar courses, we have seakeeping, we have ship production, we have just to mention a few. And then these courses are technical, very technical in nature, and they are kind of like a mixture of 3 or 4 core science courses. So for seakeeping, you have fluid dynamics, you have hydrostatics, and then these are, you can, because it's a program, right? There's a structure to it, but it's better for you as a student to have an idea of what the program is all about, what the courses entail in terms of the syllabus. And then see how you can relate this to everyday life, because from different backgrounds, you might not be privy to this information. Say, for example, if you're not into chip design, you might not know what a C state means. You might think, what is a C state? If you're an engineer, but by the time you know that you're going to have to study this, and then you could start getting some papers, reading about it, and have a general knowledge about it. And then when you get into the system, you just pick up from where you left off.
So it's really building that general knowledge base that's important.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We are coming towards the end of our session, but I wanted to give you each the opportunity just to, if you had one piece of advice for students considering the Masters of Engineering, Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering program, what would it be?
My advice is we're looking again for people with passion. That's if you feel that you're a person that wants to be within this area, and you're passionate about it, we welcome your application. Come join us.
Perfect. And for yourself?
Yeah, not far from that. So as a student, you're going to be thinking like, is this good for me? Do I need to am I doing making the right decision? And then, but like I said, do you want to do this? Are you passionate about it? Do you see yourself becoming, where do you see yourself in the next 2 or 3 years? And then if you ask yourself these questions and then your answer is, correct, and then just go for it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank both Jon and Abdul for their time today. It's been really informative, not just for me, but I'm sure for our audience as well. I would like to highlight that if unfortunately we haven't been able to get to your question, we will be responding to any of your queries post the end of this event. So do make sure that you check back in. Additionally, for those who are based here in Vancouver or even close by, we are running an open house on May the 10th. And that is a chance for you to come in and have a chat with directors of the program, current students, and ask those questions face to face. So that'll be May 10th at Robson Square. For full details, please jump onto the website and have a look. Thank you so much for your time today. Please tune back in to get your questions answered, and we look forward to seeing your applications come through soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.